Hello everyone, this is my final project called This Is Me. I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Michal Janowski, not a usual name, but this is mine. I was born and raised in Caracas, Venezuela on September 27, 1996. I'm a Jewish Latin girl, I'm 22 years old, and I'm currently a student at the University of Florida. This is my first semester of senior year, majoring in education sciences. English is not my first language, which forced me to learn it when I came to the United States. It is a big challenge to study this career in a new language because I still have grammar errors, which makes me afraid. I want to be a school counselor to guide the path of others, as this wears my heart. These are my findings regarding the 5 personal assessments I chose. After finishing the use of social media assessment, I realized that social media plays an important role in my relationships. The average college student scores about 18 on this assessment, and I got a 23, which means that I went above the average score. I think that I got a high score on this assessment because most of my closest relatives are far from me, and this is the only way I can keep close to them. For the empathy quotient, I scored above average. Since I was little, I have had compassion towards other feelings and circumstances. At the time to provide advice, I try as much as possible to think as if I were in the position of others. After completing the nonverbal immediacy behavior assessment, I realized that I engage myself a lot in nonverbal immediacy communication, most of the times unconsciously. Nonverbal immediacy involves physical closeness, eye contact, gestures, and touch as a way of showing willingness to communicate with others. My above average results didn't surprise me because coming from a Latin culture considered as a high context culture, which means using elements of closeness in the relationships. Doing the confirming and disconfirming communication assessment by taking as reference my best friend, I reasserted that we have a high confirming communication and a low disconfirming one. I got a confirmation score of 32, being the average college student score 29. On the other hand, I got a disconfirmation score of 13, being the average college student score 20. I try to surround myself as much as possible with people who support me and encourage me to be a better person. Making the online and offline self-disclosure assessment made me realize that I'm a way more disclosure of myself in face-to-face interactions rather than in online sites. Under the 2 sections of online disclosure, I got scores below the average scores, indicating that I'm not willing to reveal much information about myself in online sites. However, under the 2 sections of face-to-face disclosure, I got scores above the average scores. In online sites, I don't feel comfortable revealing information about myself because it is exposed to everyone. But in face-to-face relationships, you have the opportunity to express yourself in a greater or lesser degree depending on the person you are talking to. In addition, it is more personal. Now I will talk about 5 concepts I learned during this course, providing a reflection of each one. According to the book, communication is about using messages to generate meaning. Therefore, everything is about using the right words in order to generate a good meaning. Sometimes people are right regarding a topic, but if they engage bad words into their conversations, the situation can turn out to be completely different. There is a huge difference between hearing and listening. The process of listening happens when an individual puts meaning of what he heard. Listening is not something that happens unconsciously. It requires people's attention. Therefore, people need to be mentally present in order to be effective listeners. People who are emotionally intelligent know how to recognize and manage their emotions. They are capable to be analytical and sensitive to other situations without being overwhelmed by them. Expectancy violations occur in interpersonal relationships when someone doesn't behave or react as we expect. These violations can turn out to be positive or negative. People act differently depending on the environment, cultural values, and personality traits. It is impressive when we have a completely different perception of someone and it turns out to be the opposite. Defensive communication happens when individuals feel attacked or hurt by others to protect themselves. Therefore, the person starts being defensive, engaging with bad reactions that lead to undesired outcomes. This last portion of the project, I will come up with 6 ideas, including concepts and strategies that I can apply to my personal and professional life. Communication has 2 crucial principles which are irreversible and unrepeatable. I'm going to prevent myself from saying things when I'm angry or in uncomfortable situations because those are the times when we evoke our current emotions into our words. It will lead me to have less conflict in my life. In order to have optimal intercultural communication with people from other cultures, it is crucial to develop cultural awareness. Knowing that cultures can be classified as high versus low context, individualism versus collectivism, power distance, and achievement versus nurturing will give the person strategies to relate with people from distinctive cultures in a respectable manner. Since I want to be a school counselor in which diversity is highly present, I need to be interculturally competent to guide each student in the best way possible, considering their backgrounds. Self-esteem is how someone feels about himself. People transmit to others how they feel in every aspect of their life. To boost individual self-esteem, it is important to do things that you enjoy and stop comparing yourself with others. In order to advise and guide students properly, I need to be good with myself first to then generate a change in others. Engage yourself in non-defensive communication by asking questions, making statements, and predicting consequences in an accurate way. These strategies are useful at the time to clarify the position of the other person or solve a situation under a pacific environment. I can apply these techniques in my everyday life to know how others feel and think. In addition, sometimes it can get hard to discuss with students their worries and problems. Therefore, non-defensive communication is a good way to discuss with them. At the time to come up with a complaint, it is better to use sign language. This type of language shows speaker responsibility for the accusation, engaging him in assertiveness. It prevents people from blaming others. This technique is very useful to apply in my personal life at the time to express a complaint or being involved in a conflict. In addition, I can teach this method to my students so they can take responsibility of what they think and feel. The perception checking assignment provides me a greater insight into how individuals perceive others. It is better to develop complete perception checking statements at the time to express someone's thoughts rather than jumping to conclusions. It helps us to interpret messages more accurately in order to reach a mutual understanding. I can do this exercise at any time I need to clear up and organize my thoughts. In addition, I can teach this practice to my students in order to help them cope with their everyday life situations.